Of all the Transformers I've bought, one typifies both the best and the worst of modern G1 collecting for me, and that is Galvatron. This particular sculpt, more precisely, first released in the War for Cybertron Kingdom line, with weathering and damage appropriate to that series. A cleaned up version was then released for the Legacy, more accurate to the 80s animation style, although not accurate enough because, get ready for it, here comes Studio Series 86 Galvatron. Let me be clear, I think this mould of Galvatron is excellent. I absolutely love it. In fact, it came number 1 in my top 10 figures list. I was very happy with it at the time and didn't feel like it needed improving. Hasbro disagreed, so now we have 2 versions of Galvatron that do a pretty good job of encapsulating the character for G1 collectors focused on the 80s cartoon. I don't want 2 versions of the same character though. I don't have the space for that. I want the best version of a character, and so that's the point of this video, to try and figure out which one of these is the best. It was clear to everyone when it was announced that Studio Series 86 Galvatron was going to sit on store shelves. It had not been that long since the Legacy, and so it has. It has sat there and is still available from most specialists in the UK and dropping in price rapidly because, as I said at the beginning, although great, the figure represents both the best and worst of Hasbro at the moment. Why would they release that Legacy version and then the Studio Series 86 so close together? Either it's a calculated move to get collectors to double dip, or it's a lack of forward planning. Either way, it's not a good look. 2021 saw the original release for Kingdom, then there was a re-release in the same year for Generation Selects in toy accurate colouring. Remember, this is all the same figure, just different decos. In 2022, another redeco inspired by the Unicron transformation sequence. Also, the Legacy version came that same year. 2025 saw the release of Studio Series 86 Galvatron. Also worth mentioning, in the interim, the design was repurposed for comic favourite character Straxus. If the mission of Hasbro is to get the most out of every single mould they create, then they are succeeding spectacularly. If there is any desire on their part to minimise the impact on collectors' wallets, or give us an indication of when it's best for us to bite, then they are failing spectacularly at that also. It might seem extravagant, by the way, to have bought both of these, but I only did it because I think a video like this might help to shine a light on the choice for both myself and others. And since Studio Series 86 Galvatron is getting so cheap, I will make my money back when I eBay the loser. But how do we begin to choose? The blue versus the purple is the most obvious difference, but it's not, in my view, easy to say which is the more accurate. In the 86 movie, he is closer to the blue than the purple, but I'm afraid to say this, he's not this shade of blue. Not to my eye. I think the colour for Galvatron in the movie isn't either of these. It's somewhere in between. If I'm correct on this, it just gives Hasbro license to try again, so I should probably be saying this more quietly. As always, it's a subjective thing. You may disagree, but a lot of the time our reactions to these figures is instinct. I've tried to convince myself that Studio Series 86 is the right colour, but my inner self knows I don't believe it. There's also the fact that once we get to Season 3 of the original G1 cartoon, Galvatron is purple. His colour fluctuates, sometimes he's a little more blue than others, but purple is the dominant hue. Legacy Galvatron is the closest to that. Next big choice is the flat grey of 86 over the more metallic face and detailing on the Legacy. The debate once again boils down to the fact that true metallics never appear in the cartoon. Silver is light grey, gold is yellow. That was the debate around the Studio Series 86 Dinobots. Do you like the metallic sheen or not? I was on the side of the metallics for the Dinobots because I like that nod to the shininess of the original G1 toys. But when it comes to this Galvatron, I'm more conflicted. I think his face looks better in grey because it's more cartoony, but the lack of metallics mean that certain details don't pop quite as much. I like the metallics on the top of his shoulders, and the treads, I think, look a lot better with that slight sheen. This grey detailing just doesn't pop as well. And because there's really no difference in articulation, accessories, or overall build quality, it really does come down to these colour choices. Part of me wishes there were more differences, so it might make the decision easier. The overall grey is slightly brighter on the Studio Series 86 version, but it's incredibly subtle. So too the slightly brighter blue and gold for the Matrix, but the elephant in the room is surely the cannon. Translucent plastic over the opaque finish. In this case, I think the clear winner, which was not meant to be a joke, but might be classed as one, is the Legacy. Not just because the cannon is translucent though, but because of the additional detailing. The 86 cannon is just this one flat colour. A slightly darker shade of orange here or there might have helped. But as it is, I keep thinking it looks like a carrot. Actually, scratch that. Carrots have more intricacy and detail. I know one thing for sure. One of Galvatron's defining features and the futuristic upgrade to Megatron's iconic fusion cannon should not look silly. And I'm afraid to say, I think this looks a bit silly. You could put the translucent cannon on Studio Series 86 Galvatron maybe, but that really doesn't help with the purple versus blue or any of the other aspects that are up for debate. What does he look like surrounded by Cyclonus and Scourge and the Seekers? Studio Series 86 probably blends in better, but is that a good thing? It's kind of nice to have Galvatron pop out from amongst his troops, and I think we're pretty sure a newer version of Cyclonus is coming in 86, so any comparison is likely to be redundant soon. In case you can't tell, I'm thoroughly conflicted on this one. I had really hoped that by talking this through, I would come to a realization for myself that might aid you in your decision too, but I really don't know. When I was first collecting, I was adamant that I would only be picking up Studio Series 86, but that idea fell by the wayside ages ago. Now I collect the characters I want wherever they appear, but if I'd stuck to my original philosophy, I have to admit at least this decision would be easier. It's 86 because he's in that line. So I can't tell you what to do, instead I need your help, I think. There are enough people following this channel now that we can get a decent response to polls, so I'll post a poll up, Legacy or 86, after the vid goes live, in addition to you leaving your comments as usual. What do you think? Once again, sorry, I've failed to be definitive. I often don't know how these videos are gonna shake out until I start to make them, and in this case I feel like I've just articulated the dilemma. I haven't come to a conclusion for myself, but I've plumped for honesty because honestly I don't know what to do.